The State Board of Education meeting scheduled for February 10th is called to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda in order of priority. Are there any items that board members would like to add or delete from today's agenda? Okay, hearing none. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Second. Senator Bullock. Is there any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Evans, can you take the roll call, please?
Bullock.
Yes.
Lipton.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Yes. Robinson.
Yes.
Snyder.
Yes.
And Tilly. Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, Ms. Evans, State Board Executive, will introduce the members of the State Board of Education.
Good morning. You have just been listening to Dr. Glenn Maleko, Chairperson of the State Board and State Superintendent. To his left around the table are Board President Dr. Pamela Pugh from Saginaw, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Ellen Cogan-Lipton from Huntington Woods, NASB Delegate Dr. Mitchell Robinson from Okemos, Ms. Nikki Snyder, and Mr. Corey Rosser, the 2025-26 Michigan Teacher of the Year. And now seated to my right is Mr. Tom McMillan from Oakland Township, Board Treasurer, Mr. Marshall Bullock from Detroit, and Board Secretary, Dr. Judith Pritchett from Washington Township.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. The instructions for public participation. The public may register to provide comment during the public participation portion of the meeting at approximately 1 p.m. Those wishing to make public comment must register before 1 p.m. To provide a public comment by telephone, please complete the registration form on the MDE webpage at michigan.gov/MDE. To provide public comment in person, please scan the QR code located on the outside of the boardroom and complete the registration form. These instructions are also listed on the MDE webpage. The first is a discussion item, and we're going to have a presentation on Martin Luther King Day with Westland students. This is in recognition and celebration of Black History Month. We are pleased to provide some photos from a recent family night. I'm going to call Dr. Renee Garcia, Interim Deputy Superintendent, Division of Educator Excellence, Career Technical Education, Special Education and Administrative Law, and Ms. Stacy Sipes, State Assistant Administrator, Office of the Chief Deputy Superintendent. This is an informal presentation and no action is required by the board. Welcome, Dr. Garcia, Ms. Sipes.
Thank you, Dr. Maleko, and good morning, board. I'm happy to be sitting here at the table as the first presentation to the board this morning during Black History Month. This features students, so it's always the way that centers us and grounds us in the day. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Stacy Sipes to share some background information.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Good morning, Dr. Maleko, and good morning, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to share a recent event that was held in Inkster. David Hicks Elementary School is part of the Wayne Westland Community Schools. Hicks Elementary is a K-5 building that has about 400 students. And the students have worked really hard on literacy and social studies projects, which were showcased during a recent Martin Luther King Jr. Day Family Night event. Some of the student projects featured that you will see in the preceding slides feature former President Barack Obama, Langston Hughes, Audrey Faye Hendricks, and Garrett Morgan. A very special thank you to Wayne Westland Community Schools Superintendent Dr. Catherine Cost, Maria Mitter, Director of District Outreach and Strategic Projects, Jenny Johnson, Communications Director, Hicks Elementary Principal Matthew Furka, and all the students, staff, and families who participated in this family night event. We hope that all board members and those watching online and everyone here today enjoy the song playing during the photo showcase. It is Good Life by Inner City, which is produced and co-written by DJ Kevin Saunderson, who attended high school in the Detroit area.
Let me take you to a place I know you wanna go. It's a good life. Hey, 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 yeah. I don't wanna stand around and beg you. Just don't say no. No, 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 no. I have got a feeling that you're gonna like it. What I'm doing to you. And I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll be doing what you want me to do. Hey, life is shining, life is thriving in the good life, good life, good life, good life, good life, good life in the good life, good life.
Again, a thank you to the students, staff, and families at the David Hicks Elementary School, part of the Wayne Westland Community Schools. And one additional thank you to Dr. Dale Anderson, a colleague from the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, who will be providing a presentation for State of Michigan employees and contractors later this month, entitled Rooted in Resilience and Community, A Century of Black History Music from 1926 to 2026. Dr. Anderson recommended the song you heard because of its upbeat vibe and connection to the state of Michigan.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Ms. Sipes, we appreciate that. I know we have some other presentations today for Black History Month, so we're very excited to provide that. Appreciate that. It's always great to see our students. I love seeing students in action, right? The next item on the agenda is a presentation on Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process and statewide efforts to support school district continuous improvement. The presentation will provide updates on the Michigan Integrated System, MICIP, to support planning for improved student outcomes. The presentation will include information on MICIP, goals used to support district leaders in developing K-12 systems, improvement plans, updates on current MICIP resources and professional learning activities, in creating improvement plans that have measurable action steps to improve student outcomes, ensuring MICIP alignment with partnership agreement and next steps for MICIP. We have Dr. Delsa Chapman, Deputy Superintendent, Division of Assessment, School Improvement, and Student Support. Dr. Connie Edwards, Director of Office of Educational Supports. Dr. Yvonne Dixon, Interim Director, Office of Partnership Districts. Ms. Dorothy Blackwell, Education Consultant, Continuous Improvement Unit, Office of Educational Supports. And Mr. David Carlson, Consultant, Office of Strategic Planning and Implementation. This is an informal presentation and no action, board action is required. Welcome, everyone. We'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Maleko, and good morning, board. So while we are transitioning to the actual PowerPoint. All right, we are all set. Again, thank you, Dr. Maleko, and good morning, board. Thank you for the opportunity to share today regarding Michigan's Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, commonly referred to as MICIP. MICIP is the state's primary system for supporting district and school continuous improvement planning and implementation. Simply put, it is a critical tool for helping schools improve outcomes for students. Our intent today is to share the elements of the system and its structure for support that can lead to success. The Michigan Department of Education developed MICIP approximately 5 years ago. Over the past few years, we have worked intensively with districts to deepen their understanding and use of the system. Today, we are excited to share more specific about MICIP as it relates to details and the work we are doing to support schools across the state. And now Dr. Edwards will outline the goals of today's presentation.
Thank you,
Dr. Edwards.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman, and good morning. Before we dive in, I do have the privilege of sharing with you a quick overview of what we'll cover today. First, we'll look at the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, or MICIP, and the goals that guide our work in supporting district leaders as they develop K-12 system and school improvement plans. Next, we'll share an update on the current MICIP resources and professional learning activities. all designed to help education leaders create improvement plans with measurable action steps that lead to better student outcomes. We'll also discuss how MyKIP aligns with partnership agreements, ensuring that our efforts are coordinated and focused on shared priorities. And finally, we'll look ahead to the next steps for MyKIP as we continue to deepen support and strengthen continuous improvement across Michigan. I'll now turn the presentation over to our MDE MyKIP lead, Dr. Dorothy Blackwell. Dot?
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Good morning, everyone. The
Good morning.
purpose of MyKIP is to provide districts and schools with a structured way to use data to determine needs and select strategies that will improve outcomes for students. It's not just about creating a plan. It's about supporting improvement through thoughtful implementation, ongoing monitoring, and making adjustments as needed. MyKIP connects evidence to action. It helps teams make informed decisions about what to continue, what to refine, and what to change based on the data and what it tells us. It also helps districts and schools develop their continuous improvement plans, which fulfill both federal and state requirements. But MyKIP is not a checklist or a one-time requirement. Instead, it offers a common way for teams to think about improvement across different efforts and initiatives. The emphasis is on learning and decision making, not on producing a perfect plan. Ultimately, MyKIP is about creating a culture of continuous improvement that drives better outcomes for students over time. We're going to now look into the process a little bit deeper. However, before, I just want to make sure that I make this note. When MyKIP was launched, we had to change the way that districts and basically everyone thought about continuous improvement. Planning often started with funding, what dollars were available, and that was what dictated the plan. In other words, funding drove priorities. MyKIP completely changed that mindset. Now districts begin with the needs of the students first. Those needs inform the plan, and then the plan connects to funding. This shift ensures that resources are aligned to strategies that truly address student needs rather than the other way around. It's a fundamental change in how we think about improvement, moving from compliance-driven planning to student-centered, data-informed process. So let's even dig further into MyKIP. As we explain to all of our districts as we go around the state for our road shows, it's built on three essential components: the mindset, the process, and the platform. First and most importantly, it starts with that mindset. Districts need to adopt a needs-first approach. Secondly, MyKIP includes a process that was developed using the principles of implementation science. Implementation science is the study of how to take research and evidence-based practices and put them into real-world use effectively. This ensures that strategies aren't just selected, they're implemented in ways that lead to meaningful change. And finally, MyKIP provides the platform, and that's my specialty, that supports districts in organizing their plans, monitoring progress, and making adjustments over time. Together, these three components, mindset, process, platform, they create a comprehensive approach to continuous improvement that is focused on student outcomes. Now let me take some time here to demonstrate how the MyKIP process works as you see that graphic in front of you. On the top line, which is lime green, you see the steps that districts go through to identify the needs of their students. Based on those needs, they develop a plan, which is the second line of boxes in that blue. Within that plan, they select goals, measures, and evidence-based strategies. Once those strategies are in place, we connect the funding to support them. On the bottom, the darker blue boxes, you see what happens next. And basically, the entire district lives in this portion of the plan for the majority of the time. And this environment doesn't happen by accident at all. It happens through careful, intentional, and purposeful planning by district and student leaders and their teams, critically examining local data, identifying the unique needs of their students, and putting systems in place to remove barriers to achievement. So let's hear from my colleague now, Dave Carlson.
So who within MDE was responsible for leading this work? Two offices are primary supporters. The Office of Educational Supports is the lead office and facilitator of MyKit, which is part of the Continuous Improvement Unit led by Bill Witt. Dr. Blackwell serves as the lead for supporting districts and schools implementing MyKit. Stephen Curry, Jennifer Curtis, and Brittany Smith, also OES staff members, are part of the MyKit team. Stephen's role in this work is around resource allocation and considerations, and Jennifer is the statewide system of support lead, and she is the complement to Dot on this work. Brittany focuses on organizing and coordinating the MyKip team. I represent the Office of Strategic Planning and Implementation. My role focuses on curating evidence-based strategies that districts can select and integrate into their MyKip plans. Through this cross-office collaboration between OES and OSPI, we've developed a robust suite of professional learning, supports, and resources to assist local education leaders. These tools help districts and schools navigate the continuous improvement process. So what specific supports are we providing? In 2024, MDE expanded supports after hearing from ISDs, RESAs, districts, and schools about a critical need for more targeted assistance. To meet those needs, we offer multiple layers of technical support, learning experiences customized for districts. The 3 levels of support are universal, which is available to all ISDs, RESA partners, districts, and schools through the MyKip Roadshow 1.0 and 2.0. Basic, which is offered to some districts and schools through the MyKip Expansion Pack and MyKip Custom Sessions. And then there is individual support provided as needed through MyKip refreshers for schools or districts that require more focused assistance. That's typically one-on-one, led by Dr. Blackwell. This tiered approach ensures that every district, regardless of size or need, has access to the right level of training and resources to strengthen continuous improvement and improve student outcomes. We've talked about the levels of support districts can choose from. Let's take a look at what those supports actually provide. The MyKip Roadshow and related professional learnings offer in-person, interactive, hands-on platform experience for district and school leaders. These sessions just aren't presentations. They provide direct, just-in-time support for reviewing systems-level data and applying the MyKip process in real time. Through this work, we help districts refocus priorities on student outcomes rather than compliance or funding, identify priority need areas based on local data, select evidence-based strategies that are most likely to make an impact, and emphasize implementation and monitoring within the improvement cycle so plans lead to real results. This approach ensures that leaders leave with practical tools and confidence and strengthen continuous improvement in their schools. We know that continuous improvement, no matter the organization, it's messy, it's hard work, it takes commitment, and we guide districts through that. We've talked about the types of support available and what they include. Now let's look at how far that support is reached. So if you take a look at the maps, in 2024, MDE significantly increased our MyKip training footprint and direct response to requests from ISDs, RESAs, and districts and schools for more training and support in this area. People needed help, and we were there to provide it. On these slides, the dots represent the MyKip Roadshow offerings, offering locations and individual locations of support. The first Roadshow was a turning point for us. It brought our team into the field and began building relationships and trust across the state. Our goal was simple but powerful, to make the MyKip process more active. We wanted to move beyond theory and help district and school leaders understand how to use the continuous improvement process to strengthen planning, implementation, and monitoring. On this slide, you can see all of our supports combined. We've been busy and we've been out in the field meeting their needs. If you take a look, all those supports that we've done across the state are provided for you. We actually have a physical representation that you can look at later, and you can really see the reach of work across this entire state and the support that we've provided. I'll hand it back over to Dr. Blackwell.
So, what did we hear from the participants as we went around the state? The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Participants consistently describe MDE's professional learning as hands-on and engaging, giving them practical tools that they can use immediately, highly informative and supportive, helping clarify both the platform and the process of MyKIP, helpful for aligning district teams and promoting systemic thinking, which is critical for sustainable improvement. They also repeatedly noted that they appreciated the strong facilitation, the increased clarity, and the usefulness of real-world examples. This tells us that the approach we've taken, interactive, practical, and focused on application, is making a real difference for districts and school leaders. Personally, I just want to share that we are seeing a shift in the way that districts trust and engage with us. They are being vulnerable in sharing their challenges and are comfortable coming to us with a multitude of questions, knowing that we're only here to support and not judge. We've also heard great feedback about the professional learning, obviously, that I just shared, but we actually took that information and identified participant takeaways. Here are the top repeated learning themes. Monitoring matters. We need to live in the monitoring space. Use tasks and activities intentionally. Streamline the work rather than overload teams with too many steps. MyKIP is a one-stop shop. Just leaders can see the value of using MyKIP for goals, evaluation, data, and monitoring all in one handy place. The platform is powerful when teams share the ownership. Collaboration is the key of making MyKIP effective. Less is more. Fewer goals, clear strategies, and better execution leads to stronger results. Not only does the MyKIP team support ISD's districts and schools directly, we also support other offices within MDE that work with districts and schools. More specifically, we've partnered with offices that serve districts identified for additional supports. Our role is to ensure these offices have the tools and knowledge they need to guide their districts effectively. That includes providing professional learning on the MyKIP process and platform, building connections between office staff and ISD and RESA, and guiding the selection of evidence-based strategies that align to district needs. This internal collaboration strengthens our collective ability to support districts in meaningful ways. To share why work is so important, I'd like to invite Dr. Yvonne Dixon to explain why it matters for her staff to understand MyKIP and be able to support partnership districts in using the process.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell, and good morning, everyone. As you may recall, in December, MDE presented to the board the results of our latest round of identifying schools for additional support. These schools are required to develop a partnership agreement, and the Office of Partnership Districts plays a key role in supporting that process. We wanted to ensure that our partnership districts' continuous improvement plans and their partnership agreements are fully aligned. To make that happen, our MDE partnership district staff needed a clear understanding of MyKIP so they could effectively support these districts in building both plans and agreements. By doing this, we're reducing the burden on districts and creating a more streamlined process. At the same time, we're helping districts clearly understand the needs of their students and guiding them toward evidence-based strategies that can improve outcomes for students. As you see on this slide, the training of our team in the MyKIP process has been an urgent need, and the timing is critical. Right now, partnership districts are working on the first steps in the MyKIP process, assessing needs. By the end of March, they must have their plans developed. Then, starting in April, they'll move into implementation, monitoring, adjustment, and evaluation, the full improvement cycle, which goes until November 2028. We are incredibly thankful for the support of the MyKIP team in collaborating with us on this critical work. With that, I'll turn it back to Dr. Blackwell.
Thank you, Dr. Dixon. So, what's next for us? First, MDE will continue to prioritize supporting districts in the MyKIP process and plan development. Feedback from participants and partners affirms that the MyKIP professional learning has been effective in building a shared understanding of continuous improvement. But understanding alone isn't enough. They're asking for deeper, more hands-on opportunities to apply what they've learned. In response, we're strengthening our MyKIP support by building on the success of the professional learning and the feedback we've received. Educators want more guided time working directly in the MyKIP platform, clear step-by-step walkthroughs for complex workflows, and concrete examples they can reference beyond a single session. That's why the next phase, Roadshow 3.0, we will shift from primarily building awareness to supporting confident implementation. We'll introduce dedicated workshop and build your own planning sessions where participants actively work within the MyKit platform, make tangible progress, and leave with products that they can use immediately. We're also strengthening collaboration across ISDs and RESAs who also support districts and schools with developing their continuous improvement plans. And finally, we'll continue leveraging the MyKit process and platform internally to better align and advance our own work across the entire department. Lastly, I just want to share up on the screen that we have extensive resources on the MDE MyKIP website. So if you'd like to learn more, go ahead and jump in and check it out anytime. I'm going to turn it back now to Dr. Chapman to wrap us up.
Thank you, Dr. Blackwell. Board, we sincerely thank you for this opportunity to share today on MyKIP and its process. We want to reemphasize the department's intentional and sustained efforts to strengthen continuous improvement statewide, as Dr. Blackwell just shared in her closing. Moving forward, our intent is to strengthen a coherent, collaborative, and sustainable system of continuous improvement that supports not only districts as a whole, but individual schools, and most importantly, the over 1 million students that this great state of Michigan serves. We want to see our students through MyKIP have success. Back to you, Dr. Maleko.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. And I love the enthusiasm. That's great. It comes across then in the training. It's great.
The roadshow.
That's awesome with the roadshow. I would just say too, you know, having been at the local district, our team, we would always send teams to the training, and it's high quality and it's very supportive of local districts. I know Ms. Faraj, who used to work for Dearborn, used to always mention the high quality work that you guys did with MyKIP and took to it and provided the support. I also love to just say the partnership with the ISDs. That's great. Really appreciate, you know, working together with that. So we thank you. I'm going to ask any board members if they may have any questions at this time. Dr. Pugh?
I'm wondering if you all did any work with MPHI, Michigan Public Health Institute. Any work with them?
We haven't worked with that organization, but what I can share is one of the major tenets of MyKIP is also making sure that we can look at the whole child. And so we do focus on health and the needs of their students. So even though you may hear academics, it's all about the wraparound of the healthy child and meeting the child's needs. So I would love to reach out to that institute to partner with them besides the other, because we spend a lot of time with nutrition, and so we'd love to reach out and work with them.
And I recall, I don't know how long ago this is, but we did a lot of continuous improvement planning through the ISDs, and the work was done through MPHI, and I can't remember the other organization, but we would have repeated. I think what was good there in the direction that you're going in is that there were routine check-ins and there were teams within each of the ISDs that would come up with a problem and developing the problem statement, the hypothesis, and doing the testing repeatedly. And then there were constant check-ins. There were also opportunities for tools a toolbox that provided direction for each of these organizations, and that was around early childhood. And We were testing parenting programs. We were testing multiple strands within the early childhood development. So just thinking that that may be a really good place. I don't know if they're still doing that work, but as we are trying to make sure that we're implementing this at the ground level, I think that there were some. It's a good model to take a look at, because at the end of the day, it has to be people that are doing this, and it has to be at the ground level, and they have to buy in. And it's hard, it's hard to get people to understand that they've got to document every little thing that they do. And I always think about it as like, the frequency or a equalizer for a radio, and that you're turning, the treble, the bass, all of those different knobs, but you have to document, and making sure that you're checking in with the teams of people that are hearing the sound that's coming out, and that takes uh, huge buy-in. I mean, we can understand it all we want to, but if they're not doing that work and seeing the importance of it, it's difficult. But I think that the model that MPHI had with the local ISDs was a good way to constantly check in and provide those tools for it to be as easy as possible for that documentation to happen and the reporting out to happen. But I love this space.
We do too.
So, but thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Schneider?
Dorothy, thank you for sharing the pep in your step this morning. It's very
You're
noticeable.
welcome.
I just have a few questions. So continuous improvement plans, just to clarify, are for just partnership districts, or all schools have the requirement of CIPs?
Universal,
Okay,
all
good.
schools.
Just to make that clear. And is there overlap? You mentioned that there's integration with other initiatives. Is there overlap with our literacy initiative statewide?
I'm glad you asked that. Yes, we actually have partnered and had them join us on the roadshow to share their very important information. They also have a roadshow going on, but it makes it more impactful when we're able to use our literacy expertise and have them join in and show how it fits in the continuous improvement plan. So we're streamlining the work, making it easy, and it's not siloed. That's one of our focus areas, is to work together across the unit, as you heard us share. Literacy, also, working with our special populations unit, so that our districts and ISDs see us as a unified message.
Okay.
There are
So-
also, in the strategy bank, districts can put into their MyKid plan that they're implementing letters within the district.
That was
So
literally my next question.
all of the 35M materials are in there also, so there's collaboration with the literacy unit. So if a district wants to put that in their MyKid plan and monitor it, they have that option. So if it's important to them, it's important to us.
And I love that you brought up the monitoring part, because what you said, Ms. Chu, that's exactly what's happening with literacy. They need to monitor the effectiveness, and they can utilize the MyKit plan to meet those monitoring expectations, and everyone
Okay.
can see it. It's very transparent.
And then I would just ask too, as an extension, what are the barriers you would say that teachers might have to accessing letters? Is this, I realize I haven't asked this question yet in all these months that we talk about letters training and how many people we've reached and how many we have yet to reach. Is it available online to them to do on their own time? How does that work? Like, what's the accessibility of letters?
Letters is a separate function from the MyKIP process.
And it's available, what are the forms in which it's available within?
So depending on the cohort, individual teacher would have the option, Ms. Snyder, to do it independently on their own time. But through Lexia, through the cohort, you also can participate in live sessions. And through the live sessions, that's when, let's say on a given professional development day, that training is literally job embedded. So
Okay.
the principal or the superintendent could district-wide say, okay, today we're logging into letters.
so they can engage with their cohort essentially in relationship to how they learn and what works best for them.
Yes.
Okay. How do you see sort of parents and families fitting into MyKIP? Is there, like, I guess the best way I can ask that question is in my continuing education for a number of different registrations and licenses, you can see that there are courses around the culture of engaging parents and families. Does that exist on MyKIP with
It's incredibly
professional learning?
important. So in the beginning, when we are helping districts create or form teams and give them guidance, perspectives are vital to the creation of the plan. And so we've really worked hard to move away from that one single voice of a curriculum director writing the plan to making sure they have all the perspectives represented at the table at the correct time in the process. It's a very long process. It takes 3 to 5 years, but those parental, and not only parental, but student voices are very important to be at the table and talking about what that plan looks like, what strategies are we using, is it working? That's another thing. As educators, we don't really abandon things as much as we should. So if things aren't working, we need to let go. But we need their voice at the table, and we make sure they're there.
Understood. And then just to kind of finalize my understanding, so every school has a CIP, they engage with MyKIP. I think I heard you say that there's also a capacity to align it with evaluations. Did you mean staff evaluations? So then there's like one place where all of the things happen, if you will, it sounds like.
Yeah, just evaluation of the plan, the overall plan, not evaluation of staff. It's about the plan.
Okay.
And are we effectively implementing that plan? Are the strategies that are research-based, evidence-based that we've picked, are they really moving the needle for achievement in the classroom? It allows the teacher teams to have data dialogues on a regular basis to show, yeah, that strategy is working, we're seeing improvement, or no, it's not, let's make some kind of tweak to the plan. So not evaluation of staff.
Thank you.
Very nice, very good question.
Anybody else? Oh, Ms. Lipton?
Thank you. And this was a really great presentation, and I just love the emphasis on accountability doesn't have to be punitive. Accountability can be collaborative, and that's a really, really powerful model for education in general. So I love the overall direction. One of the concerns that I have is, does MDE feel that you all have enough capacity to do this work? I mean, this is really, really transformative work, but it's also really, really hard. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, if every school district, I mean, this is like great. So you're doing the road show, you're getting out there, and you want districts to be excited. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, if every school district jumps in, all in, like, does the department actually have the capacity to do this? Because it's really amazing.
It is we are maximizing the staff that we have, but one of the important things that Dot and Dave shared with us is the collaboration with our intermediate school districts. This works because we're able to go into those spaces and places and team with them to offer the road shows so that we have collective of districts, including charter schools in those respective ISD RESA locations, coming to the table, collaborating together with not only the MDE staff, but the ISD staff, one mind, one voice, one message. Everyone is hearing that, and then they're able to engage with one another, because us sitting at the table, Dr. Chapman's district and my district, we may be sharing some things that we want to communicate on. We may have some like barriers, some things that we're implementing strategies, and we're able to have those types of conversations. So it is an all hands on deck kind of a situation to ensure that our schools and district leaders have the things that they need, the resources that they need, the tools that they need, but more importantly, the wraparound services.
I would say as a MyKIP team member that the department has backed this 110%. We've been given all the available resources we need to be successful at the time. So, and I think that's part of the reason why the work has been so successful, that we're given what we need to help districts.
Thank you. I don't have to, I know I don't have to remind you, but, we are embarking on budget season. And, I mean, it is a concern of mine, because this really, really is so amazing, so transformative, and, ensuring that every district, is getting that, is a capacity issue. And so I would just get it out there into the ether that capacity, there is a funding component to capacity. And we just want to be able to ensure that the department has the capacity to do this excellent work, and partner with our district. So thank you
We
so much.
received that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Pugh?
And I hate to take us back here, but just for clarity's sake, so when you're seeing the districts that you've seen so far, have you been walking them through like a problem statement and they've been able to test already? Okay, all right.
Very
and it-
similar to what you described.
Okay.
It's implementation science. Yeah, so we start with creating data objects about, achievement data, perception data, process data, those types of data points that we all know is a comprehensive needs assessment. So that's another piece that we do, is try to make connections between other pieces of documentation reporting that districts are required to do, and they can house that in the MyKIP platform. Makes it easier than having it housed in a different space, reduces redundancy. But very similar to what you said, they move into a deeper analysis with root cause analyses, and then a challenge statement, a logic model like you described, a problem statement. And from there, then they develop their goal statements under that umbrella. And we really push for systems thinking.
Right.
No longer is it just an ELA goal. It's ELA proficiency, as well as decreasing chronic absenteeism, as well as implementing the MTSS system into your district. And then they create very specific end targets and interim targets to get them there, like the stair steps, so they can measure, like you said, the constant check-ins.
And
then-
I was just
yes.
wondering if, so we're creating leads.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, we're creating leads, and then you're just gonna dig deeper and deeper.
Correct.
To make sure that it's rooted. And I do agree with Board Member Snyder that this is a critical time to be doing that, because we know that we're weighing so much on the recent implementation of law around literacy and really monitoring the direction. So thanks.
Okay, no other comments or questions? Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Great
you.
job. We're gonna move on. We're a little ahead, so we're gonna move to the Teacher of the Year report. We're gonna welcome Mr. Corey Rosser, 2025-26 Michigan Teacher of the Year, Social Studies teacher from Quest High School, North Branch area schools, and Miss Becky Manor, Region 6 Regional Teacher, Spanish teacher, Grand Ledge Public Schools. Welcome, Mr. Rosser and Miss Manor. Always a pleasure to have you present every month.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here every month. I appreciate the introduction. I'm Corey Rosser, 2025-26 Michigan Teacher of the Year. And I'd like to allow Becky, Region 6 Teacher of the Year from Grand Ledge, to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her passions.
Really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me with you today. My name is Becky Manor, and as Corey mentioned, I'm the Region 6 Teacher of the Year. A little background about myself: I have a Bachelor's of Arts from James Madison College from Michigan State University. After getting that, I decided to also have a major in Spanish from the College of Arts and Letters from Michigan State University. Pending those, I went to get my master's in teaching and curriculum, also through MSU. I've also spent time as a Michigan virtual instructor for the past 15 years, from Spanish 1 to AP Spanish there, and I was nominated as the Michigan Virtual Teacher of the Year as well. Currently, I have about 20 years of high school experience. I did my very first stint in Newberry in the UP, and then I went to Elmont for a few years. I spent 15 years in Eaton Rapids, and now I'm proud to call Grand Ledge my home.
If you look at our districts, there are some similarities, some overlaps. As I've said a couple times through the last couple months, I think kids are pretty much kids everywhere. Just a little different challenge, a little different environment. But if you look at our districts, Grand Ledge is about twice the size of North Branch. North Branch is a rural farming community, very homogeneous community. Grand Ledge enjoys a little bit more diversity, about twice our size. They occupy about the same geographical area.
Today, I'm going to talk to you about artificial intelligence, the double-edged reality of AI in schools, and how that can power our future while protecting what matters most, our children. So here's a snapshot from the College Board about how AI is being used in today's school. The surge in AI's adoption has been so swift that many educators, including teachers, administrators, and district leaders, are struggling to keep up and provide the support and guidance that their students and colleagues need. 55% of principals indicate that their high schools haven't blocked students or teachers from using Gen AI tools in the school's network. 45% at least report at least some level of restrictions around generative AI tools, and about 2 in 5 schools districts don't allow it at all. Approximately 1 in 5 schools allow it but have no policy in place. 13% of these schools encourage Gen AI use in all classes, while 16% delegate policy to individual teachers and 12% delegate policy settings to department or state grade levels. At Grand Ledge Public High School, we allow students to use AI in a responsible and ethical manner. Students can use it for research, language translations for ESL students, writing assistance such as Grammarly or spell check, or for accessibility. Research assistants such as AI or NLP tools can be used to help students quickly and efficiently search and find for relevant information for their school projects and assignments. Data analysis and AI and NLP tools can be used to assist students in analyzing, understanding, and interpreting large amounts of text and data or documents for social media posts. This can be particularly useful for research projects or data analysis assignments, such as scientific experiments, marketing, and research. Language translation, or AI or NLP tools, can be used to translate text or documents into various languages, which can be particularly helpful for students learning a new language or studying text written in a different language. Writing assistants, or AI or NLP tools, can provide grammar and spelling corrections, as well as suggest alternative word choices and sentence structures to help students improve their writing. Accessibility and AI NLP tools can also be used to utilize and assist students with disabilities in accessing and understanding written materials. For example, text-to-speech software can be used for students with specific learning disabilities or visual impairments in reading text, and the AI-powered translation tools can help students with hearing impairments understand a spoken language. I use AI in my class for a number of ways. So I create songs in my classrooms to help with vocabulary and comprehension. A student created a song for me last year, which is really fun to listen to. I have also had students create their own AI songs in Spanish and translate English or look up how natural language may be used. I use Canva to generate lists of questions for games and activities. It has also been great to create a specific clip art for my lesson. These images can then be used for writing prompts in the target language or for drawing and listening comprehension activities. ChatGPT has been a huge time saver and allows me to be more creative in the classroom while saving me time. In Magic School AI, you can create short listening comprehension quizzes by inserting a video URL if it has closed captioning, and it will actually write questions according to the video. I've tried to create AI presentations, but the technology cannot match my 20 years of teaching experience in the classroom yet. There are lots of errors and lots of explanations where students and not as friendly as lessons that I present. Another huge time saver is to have AI create rubrics or generate projects that I have ideas for. AI has allowed me to be more flexible and creative in the classroom and has allowed me for more time in other aspects of teaching. I would like to try by adding a language chatbot to my classroom instruction, but I have not had time to implement that yet. For example, you could have a student talk to an artist like Salvador Dali or Frida Kahlo in the classroom. Now that you know a little bit about how I am using AI, how are the students using AI? 72% of teenagers have used AI companions at least once. 84% of US high schoolers are using generative AI work for schoolwork. The majority of students I have talked to within Grand Ledge about AI have similar views to a student highlighted in the Learning Network article, Ariana. Students who use AI with no intention to do better, but with the sole purpose to get the work out of the way or submit work that they did not do themselves. AI is a good tool if it is used correctly and not abused. Students seem to understand that using AI is okay in some academic instances, but just copying and pasting something from a chatbot is cheating.
So I want to address the quote that Becky used on the last slide, the last quote. That was concerning. If we go back, we have students' perspective is that there are students who use AI with no intention of doing better, but with the sole purpose of getting work out of the way. And that's why it's important that districts have plans for AI, because they're going to use it. It would be to say we're going to block all AI, we're not going to teach about it, would be as foolish as going back to 1997 and saying we're not going to use the internet. They're going to use it. They are using it. They're using it before we are experts in it. But one thing I'm really proud of with our district is that we've actually made it one of our board goals. And so North Branch Area Schools adopted as our 4th board goal to support learning and integration of AI to equip students with the necessary literacy skills for college and career readiness. And so I think all schools need to have a policy in place, and I think most do, and they need to have some direction on how they're using it. And so North Branch Schools, the way we use it, we have an actual AI committee that includes teachers from every level, because AI is being used differently by students and teachers at every level. We have committees that are driven under the leadership of Dr. Troy Hicks from Central Michigan. We meet numerous times per year. It's a focus on many of our staff meetings. In fact, Friday we have a professional development that's focused again on AI. And so our goal as a district is how are we going to use new tools and new innovations to support student learning rather than replace student learning. And it's going to change the way we teach over the next 2 decades, just like the internet changed the way we've taught over the last 2 decades. But we need to ensure that we're using these tools to support and further student learning, not replace student learning, because it's easy to do that. And so if you go building by building in North Branch Schools, at Quest, my alternative high school, we have a goal to implement AI at least once into every weekly lesson, into every course, to, again, support student learning, not generative AI that replaces student learning. And then the other schools in our district have plans as well. And so, again, while you could get in the minutia of what does every single school do, what does every district do, the most important part, the most important piece is that it's on districts' minds and they have a plan to use it and how not to use it as well.
It is essential that we think that students possess the skills and to think critically about a topic and have sufficient knowledge to determine if the information being presented is credible. To learn anything deeply, you must wrestle with it. The effort itself, sorting, comparing, rephrasing, and struggling to make sense of what you read, is a learning process as it occurs. Cognitive scientists call this productive struggle or desirable difficulty from the illusion of learning. Academics also warn that this is not just a problem or a trap for students, but also for teachers. Offloading too much work to make AI makes a teacher an editor to a machine and will make them less effective over time. If our brains are not active in just putting out information without processing it, the user's mind remains largely idle. Previously, a bit of content knowledge was needed to look up a topic or to look up a search engine. With AI, it will now remove any judgment and choice from the learner. So what are some strategies that schools can use to help better educate in regards to AI? Teachers should assign tasks that incorporate more than one outside source. Students should learn that AI hallucinates. It makes up information when it can't find an answer. Students should be working on soft skills such as empathy, communication, teamwork, and problem solving that will become more important as hard skills such as mining data will soon be done and finished with technology. Schools should have policies in place to inform students about when it is okay and not okay to use AI.
So moving on from using AI in the classroom, I want to share some of the things that I've been up to, and with the lag from the time that we submit these. So some of these were a couple months ago. I had the opportunity to go see Harbor Creek Community Schools and also Kentwood Public Schools. In both instances, the regional teachers set up experiences at their alternative ed. And so I believe next month we're going to talk more about alternative pathways. And so one thing I've been really excited about is to see the way other alternative eds work. There are ones, for example, like Crossroads in Grand Rapids, doing some really amazing stuff with job preparation. I would love to model everything they're doing. If I could take their whole program and drop it in North Branch, I would do it. But they're doing amazing things. They've got good resources in large numbers there. Harper Creek, much smaller alternative ed. It's more of a one-room schoolhouse where you've got one teacher that's really taking care of all the needs and education needs of the students and facilitating education using online resources as well. So it's really interesting to see these different alternative pathways that exist in the state of Michigan to connect some kids to their future. And so next, like I said, next month, hopefully I'm bringing some students and some former students with me. One of the really positives of being in a community for 22 years is that I know people that are now similar, I mean, really kind of similar age to me, right? They've been done for 20 years, and they can talk about the impact that's had in their life with having those additional opportunities to graduate. So I did get an opportunity to speak at Little Caesars Arena. Another fun part for me this year is so many familiar faces, and it seems to time up that whenever I put them in a presentation, they're also presenting that day. So I went to the Michigan Continuous Improvement Conference and emceed an event there and met some really wonderful people and got a chance to talk about the goals for the work they're doing. And I'll tell you, as somebody who's been in education for 22 years, I can see the difference in my own school with the processes that are used. They're much more inclusive of teachers. It's much more focused on getting better. Accountability, which a lot of times we can be a little scared of because accountability sometimes means bad things or we perceive it to. But accountability that also comes with improvement and growth. So other opportunities that I've had was to go to the University of Michigan Future Teacher Academy. So there are some strong numbers there going into teaching, but as we've seen statistics from the state recently, we have almost as many people leaving the field of teaching as going into it. So that's a continued concern. And then the Michigan Literacy Summit in Detroit, we had the opportunity as a cohort to get a picture with Governor Whitmer, which was a huge honor. So we appreciated her time on that. Does anybody have any questions specifically for Becky about AI's use in the classroom?
Mr. McMillan?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is fascinating. I would encourage that we maybe have other presentations as well, because we're right at a crossroads as far as the advent of what I think is going to be huge in the classroom and everywhere. I personally use it. I have a 10th grade daughter. We homeschool, and she's reading Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, and I have ChatGPT give me questions all the time. In the first book of Pride and Prejudice, give me 10 questions. She answers them. Actually, she's corrected ChatGPT once, and good point. And so, I mean, I think every parent should do that, because a lot of times you can't tell if your kids are doing the homework or anything. You can just say, give me a quiz on this, and let me ask a quiz. And so, I mean, I think it's huge. I would encourage, the state. I mean, it's one thing that we could do here at the state is kind of make sure that the locals understand maybe some uses, some abuses that they're seeing, and we can kind of have that every, I don't know, maybe even every year or something, because I think this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of amazing uses. I think first and foremost, students are going to use it first, which they have, and teachers have gotten on board with that. We better figure this out because they're moving faster than us. And as we become proficient in using it to support and promote learning rather than replace, to promote learning, educating parents on how they can use it to promote learning too. I've shown numerous parents, write a 5-page paper on World War II, and they can't believe how fast it generates it. And so as we educate parents too, that's going to help further student learning as they can support it.
Also, I think it helps with individualizing. It could.
Absolutely,
individualizing education. I mean, I've always said, when you got 30 kids in front of you, you kind of are teaching to the middle kid, and half are it's too slow for them. The other half, it's too fast. And how do you individualize with 30 kids? Maybe this can really be utilized to do that.
And even how students can advocate for themselves. They can put into an AI and different things will break down, like, I'm struggling with this concept.
Right.
Present some questions, give me a 3-point quiz. Where did I go wrong? Please help me understand this. And it will help line them up as well, taking some of the burden off of, those intrinsic learners of wanting to understand the content better.
Great.
Ms. Schneider?
Yeah, this is very exciting. I want to just park it right here for a minute and talk about it because I think it can also close the gap for students that are struggling to engage for whatever individual reason they might be struggling to engage. So I know students that have sincere ADHD, and for them to really engage in lessons, right, not replacing teaching, the lesson still exists. They plug in their note taker. Their note taker takes all of the notes for them. They can plug the note taking into AI to create note cards that help them to study, right? Otherwise, they might have entirely disengaged because of their ADHD and received maybe 20% of the information. They're frustrated about the fact that they only receive 20% of the information. Education is therefore difficult for them. They're not going to sit down and do note cards for 20% of the information, right? So it can close the gap as a tool. So what I read when you shared was that AI is a good tool, right? It's a great tool when we have guardrails in place. We can't really identify those guardrails if we're trying to demonize it. In the same month that you guys are presenting on AI, I received a book. I don't really know who I received it from, but it was a State Board of Ed member packet. It'd be interesting to figure out where that came from, and it said The Digital Delusion. And then we've seen before Congress, someone prominent testifying on how digital access is what the decline of education is all about. I don't buy that at all. I think if you use it as a tool, it can improve things greatly, like we just talked about. So very, very exciting. You know, there was also some kind of debate for some time over rote learning and memory versus critical thinking. I think we've lost the practice of rote memory learning, and it actually is the foundation of then applying the information and knowledge that you do in fact have through critical thinking and growing as a result. I think AI is actually going to return that importance because it's a data set of knowledge, right? And you have to choose to want to access it and commit it to memory to some degree before you can actually practice critical thinking. So some of the things I've heard just in conversation about how it's replacing critical thinking, it's not. It's actually helping us to commit things to memory so that we can return to critical thinking. So it would be great if you would share your slides with us. I'd just like to go back over them. And kind of, you know, remember what we talked about here today and refer to it as we move forward, because I just don't think we develop the appropriate guardrails so that people feel comfortable with engaging it on a regular basis and not hiding from it without.
Just changing
Yeah.
so fast, right?
Yeah.
Every day it's gaining more information, and
Yep.
the digital world and landscape is changing very rapidly.
Yeah, we need to keep talking about it.
Yeah, and the key really is at the younger levels, teaching responsible use of it. Because it can very easily, like you said, for students that are disengaged or struggling, it can be very tempting to replace learning with, I've submitted this assignment. We've got to make sure at the early levels we're promoting responsible use.
Yep, for sure.
Anybody else? Dr. Pugh?
It's been a couple of months, but there have been some parents who have provided me with some language that they're interested in the board picking up. So I do look forward to bringing that forward. My nieces and nephews introduced me to ChatGPT, and I was so reluctant. And then when I've used it, then now they're making sure that they're weighing heavily on me the environmental impacts. So wondering if that's a part of their conversations that you all will be having
I know.
or have had.
I know my students are concerned about it. I have other colleagues that are choosing, like, I'm not going to do this for one reason or another. And I know some of my students are choosing to use it or not choosing to use it for that reason. But again, presenting them with that information and them having to be able to have that to make an informed decision. And I think that's what it's really all about at the end of the day.
Right, and I think moderating and determining how and when they want to use it, and as my nieces always tell me, that's one bottle of water. So, but thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I really appreciate the presentation, and we can get that. We have a copy of it, Ms. Schneider. Appreciate all the comments. I just wanted to mention as well, you know, embracing it. I know Michigan Virtual has done some trainings with Aaron Boffman on how to deal with equity and close that achievement gap and to provide support from, you know, underserved neighborhoods and communities and challenges with kids below the poverty level to, you know, immigrants and others. And so I think it's And I started using, I brought it in, we actually, prior to leaving Dearborn, we entered a contract with Michigan Virtual. So if it's done properly, and Mr. McMillan, we do have it as a priority, and everyone else, just to your comment, in the legislative MDE priorities under number 6, about innovation and technology, embracing AI and developing a model policy, bring a committee together so that we can provide support to local districts. We know local districts are doing some positive things, just like what you presented here, but if we can bring everyone together and show, how can it be used appropriately. So we do have that ask in the legislative letter for, as we're going through budget season, so. Thank you very much, really appreciate it, great job. All right, we're gonna move over to our next presentation. On the agenda is a presentation on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, Goal 1, expand early childhood learning opportunities. This presentation will feature Goal 1 and will be delivered by the Michigan Department of Lifelong Education Advancement and Potential, MyLeap. The presentation, Working Together to Advance Early Learning, includes updates about pre-K for all, child development and care, and early on in early childhood special education. We welcome our presenters, Dr. Renee Garcia, Interim Deputy Superintendent, Division of Educator Excellence, Career and Technical Education, Special Education, Administrative Law, Dr. Beverly Walker Graffia, Director, Michigan Department of Lifelong Education Advancement and Potential, MyLeap, and Miss Emily Laidlaw, Deputy Director, MyLeap. And I want to mention Dr. Beverly Walker Graffia. We had a nice meeting last week. We have Goal 1, early childhood. We know that's important for the state, so appreciate the meeting last week to collaborate. And we'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maleko. Good morning, board again. Before MyLeap shares the updates on early childhood programs, I just want to express MDE's appreciation for our ongoing relationship with MyLeap. Together, we are committed to uplifting Michigan's youngest learners and empowering educators as we work to transform early learning opportunities for all. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. Beverly Walker Graffia and Emily Laidlaw to walk us through their presentation.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. This is a great opportunity for both of us to share the outcomes of Goal 1. MyLeap is pleased to share the efforts that have been made to expand early childhood learning opportunities and resources that benefit Michigan's youngest learners, which are, as you know, our children. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the great relationship that has been fostered through the year between MDE and MyLeap. It has been, like I say, awesome. Our missions are aligned, and we have been working together to ensure that we build a seamless continuum of lifelong education tools and resources for Michiganders that can build the educational foundation for Michigan's economic success. Before we share Goal 1 outcomes, I wanted to share a few examples for you of MyLeap and MDE's work together this past year. I'm pleased to let you know that our leadership teams have worked very closely together to understand and to discuss educational issues, so possible effects are diminished or don't happen at all. I enjoy knowing that the superintendent's phone number is always with me because that person has always been a call away. And I look forward to that continuing with our new superintendent. The accounting staff and the systems have worked seamlessly to get the right funds into the right hands in a timely manner. We're working closely to provide dual enrollment access to our high school students in an effort to expose them to post-secondary institutions and to motivate them to pursue a post-secondary credential. And we collaborate on early childhood learning and care to introduce potential early childhood teachers to the work through CTE Teach in our high school pathways. As you are aware, Governor Whitmer has outlined her number one priority of literacy for her final year in this office as governor. During that time, we wanted to make sure that you know that MyLeap and MDE are working jointly for ensuring that that priority happens. Our department's leadership have been meeting in weekly meetings discussing how to improve Michigan's literacy together. For MyLeap, the Office of Early Education will use our literacy essentials training for early education, providing distribution to family-facing literacy materials. And the Office of Educational Partnerships will be training and utilizing our 32N funds and our 21st Century Learning Center funds to help the providers understand what's needed for literacy training and to support those efforts during all of our out-of-school times. The Family Engagement Centers will provide literacy activities to support parents as well, giving them the right tools and the right resources so they can be confident and successful when they're working with their children. Now, the governor's proposed budget is investing in literacy, and we're so very happy about that. Strong reading, writing, and communication skills provide the building blocks for everything that follows in a person's life. When children can read, write, and communicate with confidence, they are better prepared to learn and pursue a lifetime of success. The governor's proposed budget recommendations reflect a shared commitment to supporting children from the earliest stages of learning and throughout their lives to unlock the limitless potential of each one of our children. This work is about putting our children first, closing opportunity gaps, and ensuring that every child reads at a level they need to so that they can thrive and reach their fullest potential. So, as we all know around this table, when we invest in literacy, we do invest in Michigan's future. I am looking so very forward to working with this governor's priority with Dr. Maleko, and we invite him now to share his thoughts of how we will partner together to provide literacy opportunities and to prioritize them for Michigan's future.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Beverly. Appreciate it. And again, appreciate the collaboration. We need to do it for the sake of our students. So I'm excited that the Governor Whitmer is putting students first in her executive budget recommendations and look forward to Wednesday's unveiling of the governor's budget. Her proposed investment of $625 million for literacy efforts, which is a top priority of the Michigan Department of Education and the State Board of Education, is especially significant. Nothing is more important to our students in our state than improving literacy. Reading and writing are the foundation for long-term success, and I look forward to working with the legislature through strong teamwork and shared responsibility to advance the literacy priority. And I know we've had the Literacy Summit, we keep moving forward, and there's an investment in students to truly put students first. So thank you, look forward to the partnership.
Thank you, Dr. Maleko. As we've said, we really are about working together with MDE so that we have a partnership that really improves access to childcare and early learning opportunities. I am so happy that we're able to introduce now Emily Laidlaw, our Deputy Director for Early Education.
Good morning, everyone. Pre-K for All is Michigan's goal that all 4-year-olds will have access to high-quality, no-cost pre-K. MyLeap is charged with implementing this bold goal for our state by continuing to grow our pre-K programs until each and every family can enroll their 4-year-old in a high-quality pre-K program without cost. Achieving that goal requires us to work with our communities, childcare providers, and public schools to come together. And MyLeap is focused on bringing these groups together to give Michigan children the early learning experience they need to enter kindergarten ready to thrive. Pre-K for All includes several different programs you can see on the slide. And last year we served 56% of all 4-year-olds in the state. This program began in January 2024 when the governor released the Pre-K for All roadmap. The roadmap was created with input from over 4,200 Michiganders across the state. And the recommendations in the roadmap were guided by a statewide advisory team called the Pre-K for All Action Team. The action team included a diverse set of leaders, early childhood experts, public school administrators, legislators, practitioners, and of course families and state government officials. And from the Pre-K for All roadmap emerged 4 key recommendations: to increase quality space, support effective workforce, maximize enrollment, and connect to the overall early learning and care system. Next slide. Enrollment in pre-K is increasing through Michigan's GSRP program. The main driver for Pre-K for All in Michigan is our Great Start Readiness program. The Great Start Readiness program enrollment showed gains outside of 2021, with last year's enrollment gaining 17%. This year, we've continued to build on the success of GSRP. Our most recent enrollment survey in December showed that we've enrolled 53,613 4-year-olds in high-quality GSRP program. We expect this number to continue increasing with final enrollment numbers available in the spring. Next slide. GSRP is offered in a variety of options to meet families' needs. Families can choose from 5-day-a-week, 4-day-a-week, part-time programming, and Head Start blended programs. The data on this chart is from our last 2 fiscal years, and it shows an increase in 5-day-a-week programming, which we call extended day programming. It's increasing much faster than school day programming, which is the 4-day-a-week programming, and as well as part-time programming. Preliminary enrollment data from this year shows that 5-day-a-week programming is continuing to increase. Next slide. As the number of children in GSRP grows, the number of classrooms increase. Last year, the total number of classrooms for GSRP was 3,127. And this was an increase of 854 classrooms since the lowest point in 2021, and increased by 384 classrooms since the previous fiscal year. To facilitate the further expansion of the program, we're continuing to issue startup grants for new and expanding classrooms. The most recently signed budget includes an investment in startup grants to help new programs get started and existing programs expand. The program has been really popular and has resulted in a large increase in programs expanding their current number of classrooms or starting up new programs. Next slide, thanks. The Michigan GSRP program continues to also be nationally recognized in terms of quality. This last year, once again, the GSRP program met 10 out of 10 near benchmarks. It's the National Institute for Early Education Research. And only 5 programs met all 10 requirements. Also, Michigan's GSRP program ranked #1 for quality once again. The federal Head Start program continues to serve a significant number of Michigan's children. The most recent data from Head Start grantees showed the program serves about 26,000 children across the state, and 17,000 of those are aged 3 to 5. We also serve infants and toddlers and support pregnancies. In order to achieve Pre-K for All, we're raising awareness among families through statewide marketing initiative. We're getting the word out through strategies that include digital advertising, email blasts, social media, earned media, and more. We've also developed marketing materials to partner with local regions and ISDs to customize to meet their needs at the local level. MyLeap's facilitated formal feedback loops to understand Pre-K for All, with groups meeting monthly since the spring of 2024. These groups include community-based childcare business owners, local and county school leaders, Head Start representatives, early childhood educators, and families. The image identifies 4 groups: key architects, key implementers, lived experience advisors, in early care and learning field groups. These groups are necessary to understand what's happening on the ground in communities around Michigan. The information and solutions identified in these groups inform how MyLeap addresses pre-K for all implementation policies and expansion efforts. As an example, key implementers and architects were asked to identify the challenges that still exist to expanding pre-K to 75% of 4-year-olds in the state. They identified major challenges, and we worked on developing policy recommendations to address these barriers. MyLeap uses these recommendations to support the development of our plans and will continue to consider these as one tool to ensure the continued expansion of pre-K for all. Michigan has a unique population with individualized needs. We will continue to focus on listening to families and adapt the early childhood system to what's necessary for them and their children to be successful. This means ensuring that families have access to pre-K that best meets their needs and preferences of the families, including inclusive classrooms, state-funded pre-K and home-based childcare programs, Montessori, nature-based, faith-based, and then wraparound care for working families that may need longer hours. As we've grown GSRP, we're continually fielding similar questions from Montessori, nature-based, faith-based programs. We didn't want these questions to become roadblocks, so we developed guidance to support them as they grew quickly in partnership with those implementation and architects groups that I just mentioned. We've also been working to ensure before and after school care is available to GSRP students, and we'll soon be piloting a home-based option for GSRP. Next up, we'll talk a little bit about the early learning opportunities through the Child Development and Care Program. The Child Care Scholarship supports 48,000 children with low or no cost care across Michigan while their families work or go to school. We've maintained eligibility for the program at 200% of the federal poverty level and given families receiving scholarship the priority when enrolling for Pre-K for All's GSRP program. We've also created a new regional structure to support early educators and families. Regional child care coalitions are local partnerships designed to strengthen Michigan's child care system and in turn support the economy. To address this, MyLeap has committed federal funding to create coalitions in every economic development region in the state. These coalitions bring together economic development organizations, early childhood leaders, and families to identify local needs and implement solutions. They're important because childcare challenges vary across Michigan. What works in one region may not work in another. Regional childcare coalitions focus on strengthening childcare in a few ways. They improve infrastructure by supporting early educators, recruit and retain talented educators, and work locally to expand access to affordable full-day care, especially for infants and toddlers. They also engage families, employers, and community partners to create local solutions, utilizing programs like TriShare to help families meet childcare needs. We're seeing real progress from these coalitions. More organizations and sectors are working together than ever before, breaking down silos to create innovative early care and education solutions. Thousands of stakeholders helped assess needs and develop action plans for each region. And as a direct result, Michigan has sustained or added about 316 licensed child care facilities, which increases options for families statewide. Additionally, they're breaking down barriers locally. 9 regions have updated their local zoning policies, which you would never think was related to childcare, but it very much is. And this better supports childcare businesses. Here's a list of the regional childcare coalitions just for you to look at after the presentation if you'd like. We're also proud to be home to the first in the nation TriShare program that splits childcare costs between employers, employees, and the state. Over 300 employers are signed up and representing different industries and regions across the state. One of the biggest challenges in the childcare sector is staffing, and we're taking a multi-pronged approach to recruit and retain talent. To grow the pipeline, more than 2,300 early educators were awarded the Teach Early Childhood Scholarship to complete childcare-related educational programs, including Child Development Associate degree. We've launched the Early Education Wage Initiative to strengthen and stabilize the state's childcare system. Eligible early childhood educators are receiving monthly stipends of $200 for part-time employees and $300 for full-time positions through August 2027. A previous much smaller wage pilot showed positive impacts on the retention of early educators and the quality and stability of programming. Another factor impacting retention of the workforce is the large number of childcare providers without health and retirement benefits. We've partnered with the Small Business Association of Michigan and have launched Nurture Benefits, which is an employee benefits package for early educators. Next slide. While we've been investing and expanding in early learning, we've continued to implement the Great Start to Quality system. Currently, we have over 4,000 childcare providers participating in the system, with about 3,400 offering high-quality programming. Next, we'll give a brief update on early childhood special education. In the state's inclusion efforts for early learning programs for students with special needs, there continues to be room for improvement. About 21% of students with special needs are in classrooms learning along their typically developing peers. In order to increase access to inclusive classrooms for students who need it, MyLeap is utilizing the Preschool Development Grant federal funds to review early learning policies that are impacting inclusion practices. Next slide. And we're continuing to partner with MDE in the work of the Preschool Inclusion Collective Action Plan. The plan was developed with a broad group of stakeholders and focuses on recommendations to increase pre-K inclusion, including marketing, awareness, policy, funding, and professional learning. And Early On provides services through ISDs to children from birth to age 3 with disabilities or developmental delays, or who are at risk for delays due to certain health conditions. It's designed to help families find services that promote and develop their infants and toddlers with special needs, and the number of children in Early On has steadily increased. Thank you so much for having us here today, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any comments or questions anybody has? McMillan?
Thanks for coming. I know there's been some tension between MyLeap and MDE and the state board, and I still am concerned about the taking of, I don't know, $650 million away from us and putting it under one person, the governor, and especially given what the scandals going on in Minnesota, certainly makes me wonder if this is a part of it. And so I'm wondering what you all are doing to make sure the public, that there's a ton of transparency. I would hope that given what's the scandals in Minnesota, particularly, that you guys are going overboard trying to bring about transparency. I'm wondering if there's a list of all child care centers that MyLeap provides money to, specifically where they're located, who the owners are, how much has been given to each in the last 3 years, what kind of auditing, make it specific, the kind of audits that have been done, surprise visits. Is all this available to the public at no cost, or do they have to jump through hoops and pay a ton of money through FOIA? I would just hope that, again, I'd like to hear everything that's being done in transparency to make it clear that here's the names of each center. And also, I know there's been scandals with Feeding Our Future in Minnesota. $250 million was stolen of taxpayer money through that procedure as well, or that program. So I'm just wondering, again, if you can enumerate all the different ways that you all are making sure that transparency of every dollar that's being spent is provided free of charge to the public.
We operate multiple overlapping systems of transparency and accountability and have zero tolerance for fraud. There are several public sites that you can access that information, and I'm happy to follow up so that you have the detail of where those sites are. I don't have it right in front of me, but I'm happy to share.
Yes or no, is there a list of every single childcare facility that Miley provides out of their $650 million? Is there a list that you can provide me today or tomorrow and provide the public? I don't want to be told you go to this website and search for 20 hours to try to find these stuff. I want a simple list, and I want to know if it exists, of every child care center that's getting $1 or more out of the 650 million, who the owners are, how much was given to each one of these facilities in the last, annually for the last 3 years, and how often there is audits going on of any of these facilities, surprise visits, yeah, and number of children at each facility that, you know, the amount of money that's being given. Is that available?
There's publicly information available with who is participating in child care scholarship, along with some of the other details that you're talking about, and I'm happy to connect you with that.
Connect, I want to know if it's available without searching that anybody can get.
She said, yes, it's available.
I mean, there's been a lot of dancing around, so I just want to make sure I was clear.
Yes, she's going to send it to you
Tomorrow.
when she pulls it up, and she'll have
Every single one. Okay,
how
thank you.
to get to it.
Thank you.
Yes, that was the question.
That'll be great.
And I do want to follow up on the audits that you talked about as well. Do you want to talk about the audits of the funding? Go ahead.
So we receive a yearly single audit from the state. We are monitored every 3 years. We have a visit from our federal partners coming up in March. We submit a yearly state plan to our federal partners. And so there's a lot of transparency between governments, and we're subject to regular performance audits as well by the state. We also have an internal monitoring process that is overseen by those audits. And we have an agreement with the Office of Inspector General so that if anything appears to be a misuse of public dollars, we immediately send it to our partners at the Office of Inspector General for an investigation.
And I want to also say that we have been in service for 2 years. So if you want it for the 3rd year, I am not sure that we will have that
Okay, 2 years would be
information,
fine.
but certainly MDE was in charge of it, so they should be able to pull that up for what happened 3 years ago.
I'm more concerned about what Whitmer's been doing with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Bullock? Thank you.
Thank you. So, great presentation, and I enjoy the responses. And while I applaud Mr. McMillan's insistence on transparency, the request is I don't want to use the word absurd, but it's almost unprecedented request of what he's asking. However, the information is, like you said, available for public view, but demanding the entire listing available for tomorrow is unprecedented and kind of insinuating that something nefarious is going on, whether something is going on in another state or not. And I'm just here to say I'm not in favor of the insinuation, or do I care for how the question was asked.
Thank you, Senator Bullock. Ms. Snyder?
I'm just going to level set the tone, but stick with the concept of transparency is important. Something nefarious is actually going on in our state, not just in Minnesota or Ohio and in other places. So I'll read where we're at right now and then just ask a few follow-up questions. So the head of this article is Nigerian professor pleads guilty to stealing $1.4 million from Grand Rapids preschool nonprofit. Nizeki Ize conspired to create nearly $500,000 in fake invoices as well as fake daycare expenses used for personal travel to Hawaii, Nigeria, and Liberia. A highly acclaimed Nigerian professor at Aquinas College here in Michigan is facing 2 decades in prison after she admitted to swindling more than $1 million from taxpayers and poor minority children in West Michigan. Nizeki Ize, founder and CEO of the Early Learning Neighborhood Collaborative, pleaded guilty last week. This was January 16th that this was written, to wire fraud and tax evasion in a scheme that forced the nonprofit to shut down after a dozen years preparing about 8,000 preschoolers for kindergarten in Kent County, Battle Creek, and Kalamazoo. Easy worked with ELNC bookkeeper Sharon Kilbrew to create nearly $500,000 in fake invoices, as well as created fake daycare businesses to siphon off hundreds of thousands of dollars more, which Easy used for personal travel to Hawaii, Nigeria, and Liberia, according to court documents. This is happening here in Michigan. I think anytime, again, transparency is important to have and value because it really doesn't matter where the money's coming from, where it's going, and how it's used is what transparency aims at to ensure that it gets to students. I know this is being investigated right now, so I'm assuming that's part of something you know about, that you've been engaged with. So while I don't expect data tomorrow, I understand that there is, it's appropriate to ask for the data. It's appropriate to ask what are we doing in particular about this specific incident and what safeguards are being put in place to make sure that that volume of money is not lost to our kids, or from our kids, I should say.
Quick note.
Oh, Senator Bullock.
Quick note. The allegations were prior to my leave.
Sure, and I would just say that
I'm
I'm not,
disagreeing with you.
yeah,
I just want you to
I'm not
put the
speaking.
facts out.
Yeah, I haven't said anything in regards to my leave. I'm saying something specific in regards to transparency, accountability, making sure our dollars get to our kids, and what are we doing about that?
As I mentioned, that as we do our internal reviews, if anything looks like it may be a misuse of public dollars, we refer it to the Office of Inspector General for further investigation.
So then I would just suggest that this would be a very good case study of what we consider looks like worthy of referral, because fake invoices need to be considered on that respect. And so again, I think there's like a depth to this conversation that I would really like to hear happening out loud for the public to have and rebuild trust around that transparency and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Dr. Pritchett?
Thank you. And I realize that it hasn't been a long period of time, but we know in this current fiscal year budget, Great Start collaboratives were eliminated, zeroed out. Have you seen any direct effect yet on, because part of what their function was, or their mission was to obviously help parents understand here are different alternatives for you for either preschool or childcare, et cetera. Have you seen any direct ramifications of those collaboratives not being available to parents at this point across the state?
What I've seen is community-based organizations and intermediate school districts and local school districts come together to ensure that families receive answered questions and are able to navigate the system because of the elimination of the Great Start collaboratives. So I've seen a lot of people working together to make sure that families receive the information they need in order to make sure that they can make the best choices for their children.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
My question, a couple of questions, and it might have been in the presentation, and I don't know if I missed it, but if you can talk about the slots available for pre-K and those that, compared to the children that are on a waiting list or that are in the seats.
That specific information, you didn't miss it. So this year, intermediate school districts requested about 62,000 slots. And what I mentioned in the presentation that as of December, we saw about close to 52,000 spaces that had enrolled students in them. We usually see a large jump in January. That makes sense right after the holiday. And so we're estimating that will end up close to that 62,000.
We believe that we have the capacity.
Yes. Mhm. We've been working with our ISD partners in order to expand the capacity through startup grants and some of the other measures that I mentioned.
And my other question, and I'll ask this a little later as well, it is Black History Month, and one of the pieces of data that is so stark and we cannot ignore is the number of Black women who have lost jobs. And I know what has been heavy hit has been the education field where many Black women are typically employed. And we've seen those steep and stark unemployment rates just within the last, over a month span. And just wondering with all of the executive orders, unfounded executive orders, if we've seen those numbers or seen those impacts here in the state that have harmed people in general, but of that population in particular.
You're looking at me because I'm the Black person. No, I'm just joking.
You know more about the teacher ed part.
Dr. Pugh and I know each other very well. So I agree. It has been startling with the loss in education. For My Leap, we seek to have the best. We seek to produce the best. That's what we want for Michigan. We don't do diversity hires. We do who is there no matter what you look like. We want the talent, we want the skill, because we know that's what Michigan needs. And we have been putting together support programs that Emily can talk about with the Teach America and some of the others that really benefit everyone to be able to be lifted up and to be prepared to be the best in Michigan. So I hear you and I understand, and I want you to know from My Leap's purview, we are looking to ensure that there is equity for all.
Right. And just so I'm clear on the question is, Dr. Walker Grafia, is that we've seen educated women who have lost jobs at steep. Those are the numbers we're talking about. In particular, that's a huge part of it. My question is the on again, off again, uh, again, unfounded mandates that stopped work, brought people back to, or called people back to work, stopped programming, brought programming back, the lawsuits that went back and forth. Did we see job loss? Did we see loss to contractual opportunity in your arm of the education world that took the greatest hits?
So I don't have specific data to answer you with that question, but I know overall that as people are returning to the office, the need for quality, accessible, reliable childcare and early education opportunities has only increased. And so we have felt that from the regional work that we do with providers, early educators, and the business community. So I think that it makes the work more important to make sure that we're supporting families as their requirements to participate in the workforce change.
Thank you.
Ms. Lipton and then Ms. Tilley.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And just, I really appreciate sort of the
Mike, please.
the detail that you went into and the various buckets that you covered. I have two questions. The first question is, I'm trying to get a handle on if federal cuts or if if federal cuts to the federal programs, Head Start, what impact has that been felt in Michigan specifically on your efforts, or has there been, has there been an issue?
So what we've seen is if there are federal cuts, then there's an increased reliance on the state system. So Head Start is part of Michigan's early childhood landscape, and any instability across the system, whether it's child development and care, Head Start, creates more pressure onto the state system and the state-funded programs such as GSRP.
That's what I'm concerned about. So are you starting to feel them already, or do you feel that, we're in a good position to be prepared for those headwinds? Just what's your overall sense of what lies ahead? Because, it is an interlocking system, and like you said, one piece falls, what's going to happen with the entire ecosystem?
So to be clear, overall, I haven't heard about funding not coming through for any of our programs in Michigan. But the instability has created some families to leave certain programs, and we have heard about that. We don't have that data compiled yet because it's relatively new. And so that's more of what we're hearing about. And that makes our work important to create a stable, reliable childcare system for families that meets their needs.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And then my second question is, I'm assuming that it's something that you've thought of, but I'm really interested and excited about the possibility of the integration of Grow Your Own with the potential for preparation or getting ahead of the curve on preparation for early childhood educators. I just think it's such an interesting concept to sort of look at the community's assets and how a community and how all of the pieces, whether it's Promise Zone dollars, which is sort of a particular soft spot in my heart, or whether it's Michigan Achievement Scholarship or Michigan Reconnect, but really looking at how a local community can sort of look at building a Grow Your Own program specifically around filling some of these high-need areas that students may not necessarily even think of going into. So it's just something that if you're not thinking about, I'm sure you are, but if you're not, I just think it's really, I think it'd be a really interesting conversion of programming between what you're doing in preparation and then sort of what local school districts are thinking about in terms of Grow Your Own.
Thank you. Ms. Tilley?
Good morning. So my question is, and I have to start off like Dr. Pugh did, excuse me if I missed anything, but I want to dive deeper into the focus on quality, because that has been one of my major concerns with the creation of this new entity, because this has been an award-winning program. And so, and we've talked a lot about expansion. And I'm big on expansion, but I'm also big on controlled growth and change management. So, and I'm looking at the data and I'm seeing under demonstrating quality, the numbers are particularly low in comparison to how many schools that are in existence and out-of-school time programs are in existence. So can you tell me what's the determining factor for demonstrating quality?
Let me go back. Thanks. So that's the highest level of quality, and we can go through and I can get you details about what each level is. The way that we receive the program from MDE and continue to operate it is that community-based organizations that have enhancing quality or higher are eligible to be considered by intermediate school districts for partnership. And the implementation manual and our internal policies are on top of these quality requirements in order to make sure that the program stays with that near standing as number one for quality, and we have for the last ranking, and are receiving good feedback from near right now. So I can follow up with you with some of the details that what falls under those criteria, so that you can better understand how it's layered on top of one another and how our intermediate school districts plus our team are working to ensure quality in the system continues.
That would be helpful to know the determinants. And then I also would like to know specifically what you are doing to engage and support the schools that are not meeting those criterias to help meet them.
We have several coaching and mentoring opportunities. For example, flowing through our regional child care coalitions, we have our family child care networks. We also have, through our partnership with the Teach Scholarship, there's coaching and mentoring through that. And then there are several other opportunities for child care providers and early educators to engage in professional development in order to increase quality into the system.
Okay. How often do you do coaching?
It depends on which coaching track you're on. I can also just give you which parts are you most interested in for family providers or center-based providers, because I can give you those coaching. Okay, you can follow up with both.
And then what are you, so you're giving coaching. What is the, basically trying to, you're giving coaching, and then how many schools do you want to see reach a pivotal point? Do you have a plan? Do you have it phased out? What is the expectation?
Our goal, of course, is to increase quality across the system. And so the goals for each coaching model and each professional development or post-secondary acquisition program has goals focused on certain groups of the system in order to upskill them in a way that they're able to participate in order to increase quality for children.
But what's your target? Do you have?
We actually have a MyLeap goal in order to offer professional development and teach scholarship for a large group of child care providers and early educators. And I believe we just passed 10,000 when we last looked, but I can follow up with you on that. I have a lot of information with me today, and that is not one of the pieces I brought, so.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, well, we appreciate the high-quality presentation and the partnership for the sake of our students. I can tell you, at the local level, we did feel the additional slots that were coming because as a local superintendent, years ago, we would see that we didn't have enough for everyone, and we've seen that expansion, for the sake of the students. I think that's positive with the funding and the governor's commitment. What we're going to do right now is just take a brief 3-minute recess. There's an ask from Bob Wheaton in the governor's office, and then I'm going to come back and we'll probably skip through some of the reports with Dr. Pugh and some of the minutes. So we'll just take a 3-minute. So Bob, just give me a second. It's back to order. We're making up some time here. We're going to move on to the approval of the State Board of Education minutes. Please have a motion to approve the minutes of regular and committee of the whole meeting from January 13th. Dr. Pritchett, thank you. And a second. Ms. Lipton, thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Evans, please.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder, and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we have approval of the minutes of the Legislative Committee meeting from February 5th. Could I have a motion to approve those minutes, please? Dr. Pritchett, thank you. Second. Ms. Lipton, thank you. Any discussion on that item? Seeing none, Ms. Evans, please.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder, and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we're going to move to, we're moving things up a little. We're going to hand it over to Dr. Pugh for the board president report.
Okay. So, this is a special month. It is Black History Month, and so just wanted to highlight some of, at least one event and some pressing and what I feel are dire uh, statistics that we should focus in on. So I do want to note that we as a state, Michigan has shown us something important, and that is when advocacy, investment, and accountability align, students succeed. Last week, I had the opportunity to speak at the Michigan Black Summit in Benton Harbor, where I was asked two questions. I was asked several questions, but two that stick out. And the questions were, what are the roots of Black achievement gaps in Michigan? And what is the blueprint for Black educational excellence? And those questions really demand honesty. What we know is that over the past decade, we have seen real progress for all of our learners. Many things that we have continued to be able to celebrate. And as it relates to our Black children, advanced placement participation among Black students in Michigan increased 73% over the past decade. That far outpaced the national rate of 28%. Last year alone, the number of Black students earning college credit-worthy AP scores increased by 34.8%, exceeding the national increase of 26.5%. That progress, we know, did not happen by accident. It happened when we stopped waiting and started acting. In career technical education, after years of cuts, $300 million in new investments produced the largest year-over-year growth in completers in a decade, particularly among students who have historically been left out, Black, Hispanic, and economically disadvantaged students. The one-year percentage increase for Black students last year was 12%. We have diversified the educator workforce with 34% increase in teachers of color, including more than 1,600 additional Black educators. We have made targeted infrastructure investments with historic debt release in 6 districts and a $35 million modernization that was invested in Flint. And this demonstrates what is possible when equity is treated as urgent and not optional. Michigan also reached its highest graduation rate since this rate has been monitored, with Black graduation rates for our students for the 4-year cohort increasing from 59.9% in 2012 to 73.1% in 2024. But the truth is, we must confront now that progress is fragile. The theme of the Black History Summit in Benton Harbor was the fierce urgency of now. And Black History Month calls not only for remembrance, but for reckoning. It demands that we move beyond celebration into truth-telling and into action. And as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us, justice delayed is justice denied, and delay itself becomes a decision. Persistent gaps in education are not accidental. They are the product of a long line of political, racial, and moral compromises where Black children were the currency. From the founding of this nation, compromise has too often meant stability for some and sacrifice for Black people. And in studying, we can look at, and it is Black History Month, so looking at the Three-Fifths Compromise, to the Missouri Compromise, to the Compromise of 1977, which took us from Reconstruction to Jim Crowism, to the Atlanta Compromise, where Black freedom was repeatedly deferred in the name of political calm. Each time, delay was framed as reasonable. Each time, Black communities were told to wait. And each time, the cost of that waiting was paid by Black children and families. We witnessed the same pattern in the post-George Floyd era when moments of national reckoning were met with sustained structural change, but with a retreat into comfort and moderation. Calls for reform were narrowed into debates about tone and language, allowing institutions to signal progress while leaving underlying inequities intact. These long-standing inequities have been further compounded in recent years by federal policy choices that prioritize ideology over lived reality, most notably through Trump-era anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion executive actions. Under the guise of principle, jobs were lost, contracts were eliminated, and programs serving Black children were dismantled. As I mentioned earlier today, Black women who disproportionately serve as heads of households and primary caregivers for our students experience some of the highest job losses and unemployment rates in the workforce. Since January 2025, national labor data shows that Black women experience sharp job losses, more than 300,000 fewer employed in early 2025. And our unemployment rate climbed from approximately 5.4% at the start of the year to roughly 7.3% by the end of 2025, significantly higher than the overall US rate of about 4.4%. We know that 106,000 jobs were lost in April alone. These outcomes were predictable and they were preventable. The economic policy was done in the face of caregiving realities and community stability. These losses impact families of Michigan children and show up in classrooms through housing instability, food insecurity, student mobility, stress, and unmet needs. At the same time, cuts to programs designed to support Black children reduce access to critical academic and community resources, and we cannot claim to defend rights while ignoring the conditions required for children and families to thrive. Rights without well-being are hollow, and compromises that sacrifice people's stability in the name of ideological purity is neither neutral nor just. This moment calls for more than reflection. It calls for action. As we move forward during Black History Month and beyond, the Michigan State Board of Education, we will continue to lead with urgency, clarity, and resolve. We will not confuse delay with prudence, nor compromise with progress. Accordingly, I know that we will continue to press for sustained, equitable, and adequate funding, defend educators and districts from scapegoating the political interference, ensuring that accountability is rooted in context, support, and reality, and not punishment. Center the lived realities of students and families, recognizing that economic stability, well-being, and labor conditions are inseparable from student success. Reject delay disguised as pragmatism. In addition, I've been talking to Dr. Maleko and staff, and will have formally requested that the department undertake the following actions to ensure transparency and accountability. A contracting equity review, including available demographic information on vendors and analysis of contract terminations, non-renewals, and fiscal impacts associated with recent federal policy shifts, including anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion executive actions. An interagency briefing with the Michigan Department of Education, Department of Labor, Economic and Opportunity, Department of Technology, Management and Budget. I would add my lead to examine workforce impacts on parents and caregivers and the downstream effects on student stability and educational outcome. Silence, again, is not neutrality. It is a choice. Closing educational gaps and advancing a true path towards Black educational excellence will require sustained investment, economic stability for families, and the courage to reject compromises that delay justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. I took notes of your request as well, so you can be looking at it. All right, we're going to move on to my report. We have, thank you. We're going to start with State Superintendent, since we're making up time here. Just my activities. So I just wanted to mention that everything that I'm doing and where I'm going in visits and building that collaborative relationships moving forward to, to put students first, reflecting on the top 10 plan everywhere and aligning it to that. I think it's very important as we build the relationships. And so I just wanted to provide an update over the last month of some of the activity. Some of this information I know the board's received in the board briefs, but also just wanted to mention, in the public as well. Big hockey person, I got this Scotty Bowman quote, 9-time Stanley Cup champion, 3 with the Detroit Red Wings. And this may be fitting given one of our presentations, Mr. Rosser, and AI and different things on the adaptation that we need. And so every now and then I might throw in a hockey quote. Unfortunately, yesterday I got a little injury, but I'm doing okay as I played in my league. But Scotty Bowman, obviously a Hall of Famer. And so in the department, we're looking at the top 10, but how can we adapt? How can we move forward? Our legislative priorities are also in that area. I was very pleased to be able to present before the House Subcommittee on School Aid last week with Dr. Carnell. We co-presented, and again, we talked about the top 10, and we brought forward some of the achievements that were presented last month before the board. We did a summary of that, and then we presented on our legislative priorities as well. There's also some positive that we've seen. I've presented, this is in my role as Dearborn Superintendent, actually. I was asked prior to getting this job to present with the EWIMS, but I'm so glad I've been part of it because that's how we are tracking down students, making a difference for students. And what it is, it's a great group that the department has established, and it's individuals that come from many different districts and share. We share the Dearborn story with the 95% graduation rate, 72% college admission rate, our dual enrollment, and then just more about how we created a graduation intervention specialist model for staff that would take over and build relationships with individual students to find out when they're off track graduation and to pull them back. So we also had, there was a presentation at the session with a superintendent, Mr. McKee, from the UP Redwood area schools, and the same thing. And it's a great sharing. And so I really pleased with where the department's going with the EWIMS. But I wanted to mention that I was presenting with my previous Dearborn hat on, and that was the ask. Building alliances and building support for the literacy, that's been the top priority. We know the governor, we talked about the budget is coming out, acquiring support with the Michigan Association of Superintendents. Had a keynote presentation there. I had multiple presentations before the different groups and discussions. Again, there's a real good feel, a collaboration, working together. And they did, I'll be honest, I pulled it out on stage, and then they asked me every other time, and you'll see right there, that's retirees. And they asked me to come on stage and bring the students first. So we're definitely branding it. In fact, I remember I was out on the table and Dr. Kerr's like, no, they want you up there for the picture. So if they want to get the picture, we're going to promote the district and the good things. And I think I told the board this, anybody that wants to help students, that's who I want to work with. We want to work together. We want to be collaborative with everyone. the MAISA, ISD. So we talked about the partnership today with ISDs and working and leveraging that. I think that's very important. I talked about how we really wanted to facilitate that before the board during my interviews with you in August. And so we had some meetings there, and we met with the Michigan Alliance for Student Opportunity. Dr. Carnell was with me as well. I know Dr. Garcia was there and Dr. Chapman also. Students, okay, the student, I will be honest, I changed my schedule around because I had a student that came, wanted to meet with me. He's working in the Senate, and he was excited to come and see the office. So we've got to make sure that we prioritize that student voice. That's why I'm very excited that we have that Superintendent Student Advisory Council, and we're going to continue to champion students. I know Mr. Quisenberry said there may be some students coming here today to speak as well. Meeting with legislators, so this was Senator Chang, but I've been meeting with legislators, Republicans and Democrats, garnishing a lot of support for literacy, the core, some of the department priorities, which is the letters training, literacy materials, and other supports that we need to move forward. And so I've been hearing a lot of support. We know we got the governor's budget coming out as well, and so we want to garnish support across the aisle for that as well. This was my first department meeting. We presented also on Goal 7 with Grow Your Own and Teacher, and the number of teachers that have been going into the profession, and they did a great job. But it was my first, we joked a little bit about hockey and other things, of course, but Mr. Wheaton did a great job. I think you started with a hockey joke too. I was really happy with that one. Showed some personality. And anyway, it was a large group over in the library, and I was very excited to present and to allow staff to get to know me and the priorities that we have. Again, this was aligned with the top 10 plan and legislative priorities that we were implementing. And I will say I appreciate the department too, because there was a recognition of those that had service in the department to recognize our high quality employees that do a great job each and every day. So that was really positive to see. Here's another thing that's going on this month, the AP potential letters that went out. In fact, I had one parent that even emailed me about it, was very appreciative about receiving these letters. So that continues to increase. You can see our numbers there. I know, Dr. Pugh, we're talking about gains, and you had the data that Ms. Alison Shrewsbury sent about African American and Hispanic. So we're very pleased. We know that's very important. We know there's correlations to income for people when they graduate, and so it's very important that they move forward. And so we're happy that we can promote that, and we did partner with MyLeap. There was a cost sharing on the letters that went out. Career and technical education, we know those are very important things that we need to build upon. We have it in the goals to have more students entering careers, college graduates. We have the 60 by 30 plan, and we've seen progress there. So those are all positive things. In the legislative priorities, we are asking for some flexibility, especially for 11th and 12th graders, to do different programs that meet the needs of students. So I think that's another positive aspect that we have. And I did have a very good meeting with Dr. Vitti in Detroit, met with him a couple weeks ago, and planning to go back to visit schools, in his district. And so we had a very positive collaborative meeting. I think even when I was at the conference, the one thing I actually, I mentioned in my keynote before the MASA, I said, although I have all these responsibilities, like the amount of things I approve on a daily basis, my signature, it's immense. Like, you don't realize how much, but the team is really helpful. But I told the superintendents I no longer have to call snow days. And so, but what they were doing is, well, we want your 3 days, the 3 days that we can give them a department. Every elevator I was in, every hallway, Dr. Vitti as well. Where's this? It's just been a tough winter, right? We all have done it. We've tried to drive different places, and that conference was in Kalamazoo, and you could tell, superintendents, it was very, tiring when you're up in the middle of the night, every night. But anyway, I had a great meeting with Dr. Vitti. We want to continue that. Was very happy. MEA, they pulled out the red carpet. We went to the gubernatorial forum last week, and Ms. Shrewsbury went with me and sat with Terrence Martin from AFT and Ms. Chandra Matafari from MEA and Eric Edoff. And so we got to hear from 4 of the different candidates. All of them were invited, 4 ended up coming, and we got to meet with them after as well. So we got to have some discussion there. Appreciated that invitation. And then because of the weather, I ended up going to the metro a little earlier than I had planned. So I kind of made a surprise visit into Dearborn, and they didn't know I was coming, but the interim superintendent said, come on in, join, and so we did, and we got they wanted to get a picture with the new sign, because I seen it all over social media, so. But I did have one board member give me a hard time saying, no, we copyrighted that in Dearborn, you can't take it. Well, no, if we're gonna help students, we're gonna do it, right? It's just who we are and moving forward. So some of the things upcoming, we talked about the listening tour, and I'm gonna be going, so I have a conference, the National Superintendent, but then I'll be going to SCOTA to start that listening tour in the next week and a half. We also know, I'll be CSSO, the Chiefs Association for all the state leaders in Washington, so I'm excited to go there to advocate on funding and other things with our legislative delegate on the federal level, so I'll be excited to be going there. And I know we also have our legislative lunch on the board, and I know Dr. Pritchett with the committee has been overseeing that, and Ms. Ponte's been doing a great job. And so that's all I have today for the report, unless there's any comments or questions. Okay. All right, well, we are gonna break for lunch, and we will come back at 1 p.m. Thank you, everyone. And for those who want to, we have